Hello wrestling fans, welcome to another episode of 360 Wrestling Fanatic, episode 277 for Sunday, January 9th, 2022. As always, I am your host, Lance Brock. Right here, thank you for tuning in wherever you are listening today. I appreciate it very much that you're here. And on today's episode of 360 Wrestling Fanatic, got a couple shows to talk about from last night. Impact Wrestling, Hard to Kill pay-per-view, and the maybe primetime special, I guess you could call it, AEW Battle of the Belts. Let's get started with the pay-per-view last night, which I watched first, and then luckily I remembered that on the TNT app, or channel, whatever you want to call it, on Roku, you can actually get the West Coast feed. So at 11, after Hard to Kill, I was able to watch Battle of the Belts on TNT. So that worked out pretty good. So let's get started. Hard to Kill. First off, we have the countdown show. Jake Something defeated Madman Fulton. And we have a very impressive four-way X Division match here. Ace Austin, Laredo Kid, Chris Bay, and Speedball Mike Bailey, who is coming back after a long absence. And Mike Bailey is victorious in this match. This one was a very good match. It was on the Countdown show. You can watch it free on YouTube. I believe it was. And I just want to say, if you missed this match, it is definitely worth checking out if you haven't seen it yet. Now on to the main card. Impact Wrestling Hard to Kill was live from Dallas, Texas at the factory. The commentators, Tom Phillips, or the former Tom Phillips, I should say, from WWE, now known as Tom. I apologize, I already forgot his last name. Hopefully I'll learn it soon. And D'Lo Brown, since now that Matt Striker has exited the promotion. And we start off things like Impact likes to do a lot of times with some fast-paced, action-packed. And it is the first ever Knockouts Ultimate X match. This one we have Chelsea Green, Tasha Steelz, Lady Frost, Jordan Grace, Alicia Edwards, and Rosemary. The winner of this match will receive a future Knockouts Championship match. I thought this one, for the first being the first women's Ultimate X match, it was good. I mean, would I say as good as some of the past Ultimate X's? Maybe not, but it was still good. And I would definitely like to see another Knockouts one in the future. These two, or these 6 women, I should say, put everything out there. They gave it their all. And in the end, it is Tasha Steelz winning, grabbing the X, becoming the new #1 contender for the Knockouts Championship, which will be decided later on. 9 minutes 11 seconds for that one. Once again, very good way to start off the pay-per-view, in my opinion. Had a lot of action this one. Very exciting. And speaking of X, next up is the X Division Championship. Steve Maclin taking on Trey Miguel. And if Macklin loses, he will no longer get an X Division Championship match as long as Trey Miguel is the champion. This was another very good match here. Very fast-paced, hard-hitting. There was one scary kind of spot, actually, onto the floor where they went, and Macklin actually hit the back of his head on the guardrail pretty hard. But luckily, he seemed to be okay. Hopefully he's not hurt too bad from that. But it is Trey Miguel retaining the X Division Championship, 12 minutes 55 seconds. Very good match. I definitely see a bright future for Steve Macklin in Impact Wrestling. Now, the Ring of Honor World Championship is on the line, and Riccaboni joins the commentary team for this one, and the voice of Ring of Honor, Bobby Cruz, does the ring announcing. It is for the Ring of Honor World Championship, and it is pure wrestling rules. Jonathan Gresham taking on Chris Sabin. These two had a great match, I thought. Definitely, which is expected from these two, but very good match. Jonathan Gresham retains, 12 minutes 41 seconds. And I thought, actually, the whole night, I thought the commentary, Tom, I'll just call him Tom since unfortunately I can't remember his last name, him and D'Lo Brown, I thought, did a great job on commentary during the night, and Ian Riccaboni definitely added, and he worked well with both of them. I thought they did a great job, in my opinion. And there will be more of a Ring of Honor presence coming up in a little bit. And next up is Jonah taking on Josh Alexander. And we see a recap of Alexander winning the Impact World Championship at Bound for Glory, and then Moose coming in and cash in. And then we see Jonah when he appeared on Impact and attacked Josh Alexander. So these two, another fantastic match here. I want to say, since Impact has kind of not really one of the bigger promotions right now, not as much exposure, but honestly, in my opinion, I think Josh Alexander was definitely a candidate for Wrestler of the Year 2021. In my opinion, anyway, he had a great year, and I think 2022 could be even better. So this match, Alexander gets the submission win with the ankle lock, 17 minutes, 4 seconds. This is definitely one match. If you missed it for some reason, it is definitely worth checking out. If you did not see this one yet, I definitely highly recommend it. Hardcore War is up next. Violent by Design and the Good Brothers taking on Rich Swann, Willie Mack, Eddie Edwards, Heath, and Rhino. This one, Violent by Design and the Good Brothers have the advantage, and one wrestler comes out one by one till they're all out. And we start off representing Violent by Design, Diener, and then Rich Swann, the first one from his team. Then we have Carl Anderson, and then Willie Mack, Doc Gallows, Eddie Edwards, Eric Young, Heath, Joe Doring, and the last one out is Rhino. These two, this one is bloody. Usual weapons, barbed wire board. We see Joe Doring hit Willie Mack with the Death Valley driver through the barbed wire board. And then Rhino nails Carl Anderson with a gore, and Heath gets the pin to score the win for his team. 23 minutes, 21 seconds. I thought this was a good match. Had a lot of weapons. It was a little crazy at times, but I still enjoyed it. And then, speaking of crazy, it gets a little crazy after here. Was not expecting this. And we see OGK, Matt Taven, and Mike Bennett make their way to the ring and attack Heath and Rhino and everybody else on their team, Rich Swann, Willie Mack, Eddie Edwards. And then we see Vincent and PCO and Maria Canales. They all attack them. So pretty much right now it looks like we are seeing a Ring of Honor invasion on Impact Wrestling. I'm guessing this is going to be a storyline now, and it's just starting, so can't judge it just yet. But I am definitely looking forward to see what happens with this angle. Invasion angles, if done right, they could be very good. So I have high hopes for this one. Now it is time for the three-way match for the Impact Wrestling World Championship. W. Morrissey, Matt Cardona, and Moose. This one was a good main event here. I don't know if it would be my pick for match of the night, but I thought it was good though. And two referees get knocked down, and then Chelsea Green gets involved a little bit. She gets knocked out. And then in the end, Moose pins Matt Cardona to retain the championship, 15 minutes, 58 seconds. So good main event here. We have Moose still, not main event, sorry about that. Good world title match, I should say. Moose retain, and now it is time for the main event of the evening for the Impact Wrestling Knockouts Championship. Texas Death Match. Someone who made a lot of headlines Friday, Mickie James being the first Impact Wrestling Knockouts champion to participate in the Royal Rumble. And it is Mickie James defending the Knockouts Championship against the virtuosa Deonna Purrazzo. This crowd was hot for it. We had the back and forth chants of Mickie James and Virtuosa. And I have said on the podcast many times before how big of a fan I am of Deonna Purrazzo. I have been very impressed with her. This run she has had in Impact Wrestling has just been great. But is Mickie James getting the win in this Texas Death Match? It was bloody, brutal. Weapons, thumbtacks, chairs, tables. Mickie James retains, so now she will be going into the Royal Rumble as the Impact Knockouts champion. As they mentioned on SmackDown, Pat McAfee mentioned it. And that was the main event for Impact Wrestling's Hard to Kill. This was great pay-per-view, and I definitely recommend, if you did not watch it last night, I definitely recommend you check out the replay. Every match was at least good or better in my opinion. You got the first ever Knockouts Ultimate X, and the X Division match, Macklin vs. Miguel, very good. The Ring of Honor World Championship match, Gresham and Sabin. Josh Alexander and Jonah could be a candidate for match of the night as well. And then you got the Ring of Honor invasion, and looking forward to see how that turns out. The world title match was good. Then the Mickie James and Deonna Purrazzo, once again, great match. And one thing I forgot to mention though, in the audience, we see the Ring of Honor Women's Champion Roxy, and that's supposed to be happening sometime in the future. that champion versus champion match that they've already teased between Roxy, well, not champion versus champion, but Roxy versus Deonna Purrazzo. But at the time, she was hoping to have won the championship, so she said title versus title, but Mickey retained. But we might see Roxy versus Deonna Purrazzo, unless they do want to go with a title versus title match. We could see Roxy versus Mickey James. And then Hard to Kill, once again, great pay-per-view. If for some reason you missed it last night, I definitely recommend checking out the replay. And last night was also AEW Battle of the Belts. As I said at the top of the podcast, I watched it on the West Coast feed on the TNT Roku app at 11. And the news that was broke on Rampage Friday night that Cody Rhodes would not be able to compete due to medical protocol, and so his brother, the Natural, Dustin Rhodes, took his place in the TNT Championship match against Sammy Guevara. Guevara wins this one, once again, TNT Champion. And the FTW Championship was on the line. Ricky Starks defeated Matt Sydal. And the main event, the AEW Women's Championship on the line. Champion Dr. Britt Baker, DMD, successfully retained against Riho. So, we had two good shows last night. I definitely recommend them. If for some reason you didn't see either one, shame on you. But if you didn't, I definitely recommend checking them out. Battle of the Belts and the replay of Impact Wrestling Hard to Kill. That is all for this episode of 360 Wrestling Fanatic. Thank you once again for tuning in, everybody. And remember, if you have any questions, comments, or suggestions, the email is 360wrestlingpodcast@gmail.com. Remember, you can like 360 Wrestling Podcast on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter at 360 Wrestling Pod, and the YouTube channel. Like, subscribe, comment, and all that good stuff. And if you can support 360 Wrestling Podcast, you don't have to, but if you can, any amount will help. It'll help us make the podcast even better. And I will put the link in the description. And thank you once again. Hope to be back with more episodes soon. Hope everybody also enjoyed Hard to Kill and Battle of the Belts last night. Until next episode, I am Lance, and I am a wrestling fanatic.